Hi, we're just gonna give.
Although I give you a performance at your house every day. So.
That's right. I do get, yes, special performances. That's right.
All right, everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. We'll start kicking things off. I'll be letting people in as we go along. I first want to say thank you to everyone for joining. I just want to remind everyone to please mute themselves and try to stay muted. If you have feedback, we obviously will provide the opportunity to welcome it towards the end. But just so we don't interfere with the sound of the different performances, let's make sure we stay muted. So first, of course, I want to say thank you for joining today. I know usually our programs start a little later in the day, and but I'm very excited because we have a lot of great performances ahead of us. I want to give a really big shout out and thank you to Brig Presbyterian Church and Temple Emmanuel. They were the sponsors for the holiday meals and have been longtime supporters of Isaac's. So we're really grateful to have their assistance with being able to provide you with some holiday joy as we as we enter our second year celebrating these holidays in very differently. Again, as usual, I'm very grateful for having you guys to celebrate holidays with, because obviously if we were in the center, we will be doing something together, but this is even better because we can fit more people than we probably could in the dining room and more performers. So I want to say also a big thank you to the people who have taken the time to provide us with performances today, and also to the Met Orchestra musicians who will be joining us again, and they provide us with a performance for Christmas time. So happy holiday, everyone. I know it's Good Friday today, so happy Good Friday to those who celebrate. Happy Passover to those who have been celebrating this past week, and happy early Easter to everyone. We're gonna kick it off with our first performance. Zane.
Need it louder to hear? No.
Everyone, happy spring. So our first performer, I hope you enjoy her. She's an up and coming budding performer, pun intended. I hope you enjoy her rendition of It Might As Well Be Spring. And her name is Gwen Wood. Sorry if I skipped that.
Oh, wait, hold on. This is what I'm talking about, technical difficulties. Let me make sure I do this correctly. Share sound, that's the important part.
I'm as restless as a willow in a windstorm. I'm as jumpy as a puppet on a string. I'd say that I had spring fever, but I know it isn't spring. I am starry-eyed and vaguely discontented, like a nightingale without a song to sing. Oh, why should I have spring fever when it isn't even spring? I keep wishing I were somewhere else, walking down a strange new street, hearing words that I have never heard from a man I've yet to meet. I'm as busy as a spider spinning daydreams. I'm as giddy as a baby on a swing. I haven't seen a crocus or a rosebud or a robin on the wing, but I feel so gay in a melancholy way that it might as well be spring. It might as well be spring.
Thank you so much for that, Gwen. That was beautiful. So next up, we have another one of my best friends, Marty Lauder. He's sharing a song from his most recent Broadway national tour, It Only Took a Moment from Hello Dolly.
It only takes a moment for your eyes to meet, and then your heart knows in a moment you will never be alone again. I held her for an instant, but my arms felt sure and strong. It only takes a moment to be loved a whole life long, and that is all that love's about. And we'll recall when time runs out that it only took a moment to be loved a whole life long.
Such great performances. It's kind of hard to believe we're celebrating spring and it's 30, 40 degrees out, but it's still a great way to ring it in. And I'm glad we're able to do it together. So we're moving pretty quickly. But the next person we have coming up is someone who's actually performed for us before. He's a good friend of Aaron's and also a good friend of the Isaac Center. So I'd like to welcome Josh Walker.
Can you see me? Am I here? Can you hear?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. How's it going? I would like to share one of my favorite Stephen Sondheim songs. It's a very rare Sondheim song. It's from a show called Evening at the Primrose, which was a television special, and he wrote the music for. So this is called Take Me to the World. Let me see the world with clouds. Take me to the world, out where I can push through crowds. Take me to the world, a world that smiles with streets instead of aisles, where I can walk for miles with you. Take me to the world that's real. Show me how it's done. Teach me how to laugh, to feel. Move me to the sun. Just hold my hand whenever we arrive. Take me to the world where I can be alive. Soon spring will be here. Let me see the world with smiles. Take me to the world somewhere I can walk for miles. Take me to the world with all around things growing on the ground, where birds that make a sound are birds. We shall have the world come true. We shall have the world. I'll be afraid with you. We shall have the world. I'll hold your hand and know I'm not alone. We shall have the world to keep, such a lovely world will we. We shall have the world forever. Thank you so much. Happy Easter, everyone. It's good to see everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your wonderful performance. You always blow me away with how powerful your voice is. And with Zoom and everything, we know that there's always technical difficulties with people performing,
Turn her down, turn her down.
and you always knock it out of the park. So thank you.
Thanks, Gemma. Appreciate the invite.
Have a good holiday.
You too.
Thanks,
Um, Next up, we have a guest of honor. Again, thank you to Temple Emmanuel for your continuous support of the Isaac Center. I know usually there's tickets provided for members to attend a Passover Seder at the synagogue, but obviously due to COVID and how we're living now, that obviously has changed. Temple Emmanuel is New York's first Reformed Jewish congregation in New York City, and it's huge and it's great, and they provide not only religious programming but fantastic cultural programming that my mom is also a fan of, so shout outs. And I want to welcome Rabbi Ehrlich to just give us a little Passover crash course, which is a holiday that's being celebrated right now.
Thank you so much. For those of you I haven't met, I want to say thank you for welcoming me into your homes, especially during this holiday week. I am so pleased to be part of this communal celebration. And I have to say, I am so awed by the talent that preceded me. So I just want to say I'm not as entertaining, but I want to share a little bit about the Passover holiday. And I'm also so pleased that I have this opportunity to share time with our friends from the Brick Church and with all of you at the Stanley Isaacs Center. So this holiday of Passover is ancient. It reaches back some 3,300 years, if you can imagine that. Our holiday celebration itself in everyone's home in the modern world begins with a dinner that we call a Seder. It's a meal that actually tells the ancient story, the story of the Exodus from Egypt, of the Israelites, and it is complete with props. The word Seder itself means order, and participants around the dinner table move through 15 different steps in order to reenact the passage from bondage to freedom. And as we do, the commandment is to feel as if we had been enslaved and thereafter liberated through God's might. So there are certain things that have become part of every single Seder, symbols which we place in the center of the table so that everyone can see them. And that's one of the ways that the story comes alive. We use a book which helps us with the telling. It's called a Haggadah, and that means to tell or to relate or to expound. And this is especially important because our responsibility is to pass this story along to our children. And that's why it's told and retold, no matter how young or old you are. As one grows, your position shifts in terms of whether you ask the questions or tell the story or offer your own commentary. So we try to make it especially fun for kids because the evening is always so long. The youngest, at a certain point of the story, is asked to ask the 4 questions. And that is a tradition that goes back 2,000 years. In earlier generations, you know, the way kids like routine. So the fact that this dinner is different from all others, a kid would naturally ask, why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? Normally we have bread, tonight we eat matzah. But we use the symbols just to get the story going. And the question that actually allows everything else to unfold is why? Why is this night different from all other nights? And thereafter, it's the elder's responsibility to tell the story through the symbols. So I'm going to mention 3 of them that are really essential to the story's unfolding. We eat matzah, which is a flat cracker, for an entire week because our ancestors left in a hurry and they didn't have time to break bread. So they mixed flour and water and they baked it as they set out on their journey. And for those who are familiar with matzah, it has not risen. It's simply a flat, crumbly cracker. So when we eat it all week long, every time we sit down to a meal, every time we don't reach for a piece of bread or try to create a sandwich, whether it's peanut butter and jelly or something more interesting, on a piece of matzah, we remember, yes, this is Passover week. At the Seder, we also eat something called maror, and we tell the kids, let's hear you roar. It's bitter herbs. So when you taste something that is bitter, you want to scream out. And that is to remember the bitterness of slavery. Depending on where you live, you might use whatever produce is at hand. We tend to use horseradish, but anything is acceptable. In more recent years, I want to say the 1st century, one of our scholars decided that it would be a good idea to eat the bitter herbs with something sweet, because life is always a mixture of bitter and sweet. And isn't that the best way to temper the sadness and sorrows and challenges in our lives? For those who are familiar with the Bible, remember the showdown in Exodus between Moses and Pharaoh, those 10 plagues, right? Moses went to Pharaoh and kept saying, let my people go so that they may worship God. And Pharaoh said, let me think about it. And after every plague, Pharaoh had a change of heart. But ultimately, it was the last plague, the death of the firstborn, which changed everything. Even Pharaoh, who was sitting in his palace, was not protected from that plague. And so we remember that very difficult moment. Using a lamb shank, we put it on the Seder plate as a reminder of the Paschal lamb that was sacrificed, so its blood could be used to mark the doorpost of the Israelites' homes, so that the angel of death would pass over those dwellings. And when we recount the 10 plagues during our Seder, everyone has a glass of wine or juice, depending on their age and whether or not they're able to drink. We are told to diminish our own happiness. So we take our pinkies and we dip it in the wine or juice, and then we put those little drops onto our plate or elsewhere. The idea is to diminish our own joy, because in doing so, we remember the suffering of others. And this is one way the holiday becomes one of responsibility to those around us. Where others are suffering, we are responsible to help. I'll say that this is also a holiday of gratitude, which we express with singing songs and psalms and praise, and with outright appreciation for all that God did to redeem us from oppression. The word we use is Hebrew. It is dayenu, enough. It would have been enough if God had only done a fraction of all the amazing things that helped redeem the Israelites from slavery. And in our time, around the table in the evening over the Seder dinner, we share personal reflections about the things that we are grateful for. Threaded throughout this whole telling is the refrain, this year we are slaves, next year may all be free. We come back to that idea that we are reenacting this moment. And in the year to come, it's our responsibility to do everything we can to help all those who are oppressed in any way to reach redemption of their own. And then ultimately, we can all celebrate that freedom together. It's a way of holding on to hope when circumstances around us are difficult. And in times of suffering, it's something that gives us strength. I want to say that Passover is also a time of justice. Wherever people are suffering, we understand their pain precisely because of this shared ancestral experience. It's made us receptive to the difficulties of others. And as our travels have taken us to live in every nation in the world, we have adapted and embraced new symbols that you might see on a Seder plate as a way to create understanding of the world in which we now live. For example, in the 60s, during the grape boycott in California, it was common to see grapes on a Seder plate. In recent years, people have added an orange to express solidarity with all those who have been marginalized in our society, people who live on the fringes. And I know that this year at many homes, Seders have added a banana on the Seder plate this year to show support for our Asian American Pacific Island neighbors and the hatred that is being openly expressed and our responsibility to speak out against it. Every symbol is an opportunity for discussion, reflection, and learning. We're obligated to look at our tradition through the wisdom expressed in that book, the Haggadah, which is a collective of sayings of scholars and sages who lived before us, but it's also important to listen to the voices gathered around our table, because each of us adds to the story and the experience through our own. So there's something to be learned from everyone. As we've been home during the pandemic, many people have come to understand in a new way what it means when your freedom is limited. We've time to look at ourselves and wonder what is important. We ask ourselves, what is liberty? What is faith? What is identity? And how can we lift these up without a community around us to support us and celebrate it? And then we've also learned what it means to have hope and to see a kind of promised land for ourselves. Perhaps the path to that destination will be a vaccine instead of walking through the parted waters. But the pandemic has given us a renewed understanding of our people's ancient message. So I say again, we're taught in every generation to act as if we had emerged from slavery ourselves. It's such a powerful teaching that we include it in our Sabbath prayers each week. In doing so, our ancestors wanted to remind us, don't forget your people's story. Don't take your freedom for granted, and be that much more kind to others who are suffering. Do your part to change the world and use your abilities to make it a world that you want to live in. So in summary, I want to say that matzah packs a really big message. So for all who celebrate, I hope you are enjoying the holiday And for all our friends here who are joining us, thank you for giving me this time to share some of the most important ideas that makes the holiday so important for us and all. A happy holiday to each of you as you celebrate in your own tradition.
Thank you, Rabbi Ehrlich. That was a beautiful, eloquent description of Passover. I did a Passover 101 session yesterday. It was not as did not flow as nicely, but so I really greatly appreciate you being able to say it in such a clear and concise way.
It's with pleasure. And you know, we continue to learn from every person. So I appreciate all that you and all of your colleagues bring to the screen and share with this community. Thank you so much for welcoming us.
Thank you.
And for Susan Kaufman for her amazing connection to the Stanley Isaac Center. And we hope it will long continue.
Yes, and thank you again for helping us provide our spring holiday packages with the Kosher for Passover treats and the Haggadahs and stuff. So thank you again.
It's a joy.
Alrighty, so obviously because of the holiday, it is Good Friday today. So Brick Presbyterian wasn't able to physically be with us, but they're with us in spirit, and they were also a really big support in being able to get our spring holiday packages out. They were responsible for funding the meals that went out last Thursday, so thank you to them. Briggs Presbyterian Church is a Presbyterian church located on 92nd Street between Park and Madison. And while they are a church, a Christian establishment, they welcome people from all backgrounds and they want to support the community regardless of religious affiliation. They have done a lot of work with us in supporting the community, and we are grateful for their support. I have our favorite MC with us today, Miss Justina Chirac, who's going to be sharing with us a little Easter 101. So whenever you're ready, Justina, you can take it away.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, as Gemma mentioned, I am Justina Chirac Brown, and I work with our education and workforce program, our 16 to 24-year-olds who are either trying to get their high school equivalency diplomas, go to work, or get into college. So without further ado, I will go ahead and share with you a little bit of knowledge about the holiday of Easter. So Easter is a Christian holiday that celebrates the belief in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. In the New Testament of the Bible, the event is said to have occurred 3 days after Jesus was crucified by the Romans and died in roughly 30 AD. The holiday concludes the Passion of the Christ, a series of events and holidays that begins with Lent, a 40-day period of fasting, prayer, and sacrifice, and ends with Holy Week, which includes a Holy Thursday, the celebration of Jesus' Last Supper with his 12 apostles, also known as Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, on which Jesus' crucifixion is observed, and Easter Sunday. Although a holiday of high religious significance in the Christian faith, many traditions associated with Easter date back to pre-Christian pagan times. Easter 2021 will be occurring this Sunday, April 4th. However, Easter falls on a different date each year. Easter Sunday and related celebrations such as Ash Wednesday and Palm Sunday are considered movable feasts, although in Western Christianity, which follows the Gregorian calendar, Easter always falls on a Sunday between March 22nd and April 25th. Easter typically falls on the first Sunday after the first full moon, occurring on or after the spring equinox. In Eastern Orthodox Christianity, which adheres to the Julian calendar, Easter falls on a Sunday between April 4th and May 8th each year. In some denominations of Protestant Christianity, Easter Sunday marks the beginning of Eastertide, or the Easter season. Eastertide ends on the 50th day after Easter, which is known as Pentecost Sunday. In Eastern Orthodox branches of Christianity, Easter Sunday serves as the start of the season of Pascha, Greek for Easter, which ends 40 days later with a holiday known as the Feast of the Ascension. A little background into why Easter is called Easter. Saint Bede the Venerable maintains that the English word Easter comes from Ostre, or Ostre, the Anglo-Saxon goddess of spring and fertility. Other historians maintain that Easter derives from in albis, a Latin phrase that's plural for alba or dawn that became Eastorum in Old High German, a precursor to the English language of today. Despite its significance as a Christian holy day, many traditions and symbols that play a key role in Easter observances actually have roots in pagan celebrations, particularly the pagan goddess Ostre, and in the Jewish holiday of Passover. Finally, the resurrection of Jesus, as described in the New Testament of the Bible, is essentially the foundation upon which Christian religions are built. Hence, Easter is a very significant date on the Christian calendar. According to the New Testament, Jesus was arrested by the Roman authorities, essentially because he claimed to be the Son of God, although historians question his motive, with some saying that Romans may have viewed him as a threat to the empire. Finally, notable Easter is also associated with the Jewish holiday of Passover, as well as the exodus of the Jews from Egypt, as described in the Old Testament. These links are clearly seen in the Last Supper, which occurred the night before Jesus' arrest and sufferings Jesus endured following his arrest. The Last Supper was essentially a Passover feast. However, New Testament describes it as being given new significance by Jesus. He identified the matzah, or bread, he shared with his 12 apostles as his body and the cup of wine they drank as his blood. These rituals would come to symbolize the sacrifice he was about to make in death, and because of the basis for the Christian ritual of Holy Communion, which remains a fundamental part of Christian religious services. As Jesus' arrest and execution were said to have occurred during the Jewish observance of Passover, the Easter holiday is often close to the former celebration of the Judeo-Christian calendar. Took me back to Catholic school, my days as a Catholic school girl, and Easter was always something that we celebrated, a week-long tradition. So for whatever you celebrate, please have a wonderful holiday and enjoy.
Thank you, Justina. Happy Good Friday and have a happy Easter. Thank you for taking the time out to just give us a quick overview of Easter. It was very, very thorough. So thank you. Alrighty, and we're moving quick. So the next person we will be welcoming is Greg Morris, who I'm sure you all are pretty familiar with. Greg, whenever you're ready.
Hey folks, it's great to have this time together. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. I'm sorry for the ridiculous hat. There we are. Hi everybody. So I want to say two things, and I'm going to ask the crew here, this fabulous, dynamic, and powerful group of folks who put this event together, is if you could indulge me, I'm going to send you a link because I found actual words from Stanley Isaacs from 1947 talking about the meaning of Passover. So I'm going to send that link and we're going to see if we can play that, hopefully before this time together concludes. But I guess I just want to say this, and I'll steal a little bit from what he shares in his statement, which is this time of year, the spring, is rich with holidays and religious traditions, regardless of whether you are a Jew or a Christian, or regardless of what it is that you embrace and what it is that you honor. And in every case, the sense that this is about a time period of rebirth and renewal, that this is a time of thinking about perseverance, that this is a time of celebrating the prospect of possibility and promise as the flowers bloom outside, is something that I think is really important for us to remember. As the number of vaccines in our arms grows, as we see perhaps a light at the end of some tunnels, I can think of no more important time to think of what it means to renew and be reborn. And as we think about that, as we think about perseverance, and as we think about promise, I also want to think about it from the perspective of what it has meant to live for so long in a world where there has been so much persecution, where there has been so much disempowerment, when we have, as a community and as a city and as a country and as a world, we have allowed so much suffering. And the commitment that we make in this moment of renewal, when we make the commitment and honor the traditions of perseverance in the past, that we make the decision in this moment that everything that lies ahead for us, everything that there is ahead for us, will be better than it's ever been before for all, regardless of what it is that we honor and regardless of what it is that we believe, except one thing, and that is when we are together, when we are one, we are much stronger, we are much more powerful, and the possibilities for all of us, this generation, the one before us and the one after, will truly be endless. So on that note, I want to express my thanks and appreciation for everyone who's participated in this particular gathering and this time together. It is extraordinarily a generous commitment made on behalf of the folks who come together in this moment to share with us and to share this time, and the commitments that have been made to honor our traditions, to honor each other during this time period could not be possible without the wonderful commitments of our volunteer partners who have joined us today. So again, I just want to express my thanks. The true generosity that has come from the community as we have all come together has been extraordinary. And the commitment we make to staying together matters more than ever before. On that note, I wish each of you a very happy and healthy spring season. And my crew, my fabulous crew, this dynamic, powerful group of professionals, I'm going to send you a link. And if we could just catch a minute of Stanley Isaac's words in relation to Passover, it's interesting in what he says in 1947 and how much it applies today. So maybe if we can catch a minute of that before we conclude, it would be a nice way to honor our namesake. On that note, thank you.
If you want to send it now, I'll share my screen.
And it'll take me a minute, so I'll send it to you, but you may want to go on to the next item.
Our next item is the finale. So.
Gemma, if you don't mind, I'd just like to say hello to everybody.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So if you don't know me, I'm Aaron, Clinical Director. I supervise Gemma, and I just want to thank Gemma and everybody that put together this program today. It's just been wonderful. And she mentioned it's a cold day outside, and that might be true, but the sun was shining on everybody, and I could see it coming in your windows on the videos. So it's a good spring day, and it's great to be able to celebrate these things together. The performances were wonderful. Thank you, Zane and Rabbi Elrich and everybody that came. This is just such a wonderful program. So thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of the program.
All right, bear with me. I'm going to play tech support.
Did anybody receive their Passover meals or Easter meals that were sent courtesy of Temple Emmanuel and Brick Church, respectively, that wants to share? I don't know, some people maybe ate them when they were delivered. Some people maybe saved them for today or for Easter Sunday. Does anybody want to?
I received it and it was delicious. The fish was very, very well done. And I ate it the same day when it was fresh. It was very, very good. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
This is Ana Gloria. Yes, I ate them also the same day last week. And I had not had matzah in many, many years, and it was so good. I'm afraid I thought I'll turn into a matzah. I ate so much of it. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. And the fish, everything.
That's wonderful. Well, really, please, we really have Temple Emmanuel and Brick Church to thank for both of those meals. They provided those meals and covered the cost of them. So yes, all the thanks goes to them. Although, of course, the Easter meals were prepared in our kitchen, so I don't think any of the chefs are here with us today, maybe one or two, but we can applaud their culinary art.
It was excellent.
So much. I'm so glad to hear it.
And the lunch was warm when we got it. That's why everybody ate it.
Yeah.
I should probably unmute myself. I'm going to go ahead and share the excerpt that Greg shared.
Years since the people of Israel set out from Egypt on their great adventure, which has lasted until the present day. Every year since then, Jews the world over have gathered in their homes at this season to give thanks to God for liberating them from the oppressor. The Passover is mankind's oldest celebration of freedom. Its observance has been kept up through dark periods when the descendants of the ancient Hebrews were themselves enslaved and persecuted. From generation to generation, Jews have passed along the message of Passover, the oneness of God, the brotherhood of man, the sanctity of freedom. It is a universal message, and it is particularly timely in our own day. The story of the Exodus from Egypt tells how the Jews wandered 40 years in the wilderness in search of a home. Today, hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children, Jews and Christians alike, also survivors of bitter oppression, are seeking hospitable lands where they can settle in peace and security. The artists who are taking part in this program are representatives of that multitude of the homeless. They have come out of the wilderness into the security and hope of America. They are able to be here because our country remains true to the principle of religious freedom and has not completely abandoned its tradition of asylum for victims of persecution, a tradition which played a leading part in populating our land and building its greatness. United Service for New Americans and the many people who generously support its work by their contributions to the United Jewish Appeal are proud and happy to have been able to help people like Eva Yelena, Kurt Meyer, Leo Mirkovich, and those charming and talented young ladies, Frina and Yana Ashanskia. The traditional Passover ritual prescribes that those who take part in the feast shall be dressed and equipped for traveling and shall eat hastily as if they were actually in flight. At the reception center of United Service in the Hotel Marseille, 300 new immigrants observed the holiday almost literally in this respect. They have just arrived from Europe, and many are on the point of setting out for the places where they will make their permanent home. The Statue of Liberty is the first glimpse of America for thousands of immigrants. But our city is only a temporary stopping place for those whom United Service can help to move out all over the country to cities, towns, and farms where they will be cordially welcomed, where they will enter quickly into the mainstream of American life. Thus, people who the year before last spent Passover in concentration camps and last year in bleak centers for displaced persons are enjoying the Passover this year in America and look forward to greeting the holiday next year in secure, happy homes of their own.
I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. Thank you, Greg, for sharing that excerpt. It's very nice to be able to hear words from Stanley Isaacs, our namesake. I will be sharing this link with members who are on our email list. So if you want to listen to the whole thing, you're welcome to do so after.
Yeah, and I just want to make note, as folks know, Stanley Isaacs was Manhattan Borough President. He was a city council member. This was part of a New York City radio segment where he was honoring and acknowledging some folks that were performing an acknowledgement, just like we did today. Folks coming together and talking about it, celebrating and acknowledging Passover and the holiday season. And so his words from 1947, which were about how it is that we as a country come together to push back against persecution, and how it is we fight to empower each other and to ensure each other's safety and well-being, that's part of the history and tradition of our country, and it's part of the history and tradition of our city. I just can't imagine those words being any more important today. These are very different times in some ways, and unfortunately very much the same in others. So I think it was good to hear his words and a reminder from the past, all the distance we have to go. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Greg. And for our grand finale, we're going to be welcoming the Met Orchestra musicians. I want to give a shout out and a thank you to them because they have provided us with performances in the past. And, you know, they're doing it out of the kindness of their hearts, which we really, really appreciate. And I know that you guys really enjoy the performances and the music that they can provide for us. Today with us, we have Dora from the Met Orchestra musicians who will be able to give a little spiel about the performance we're going to be sharing. So Dora, whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
You're muted, I think.
It's okay. I think now it is working. Okay, I'm just repeating. I'm Dora Figueroa, and I'm very honored to be speaking here, you know, on behalf of the whole Met Orchestra. I'm a cellist there, the associate principal cellist, and my husband is actually the principal cellist at the orchestra, and we are both performing in the first 4 pieces of the concert that you will hear today. So here he is. That's Raphael. And we actually work together on the same stand, so it was a lot of fun for us to play again in a concert that was put together for the, you know, to reach out to our audience. And it's great that we can, you know, also even like, you know, have this Zoom with you, that we can, you know, be in contact with our audience, even though we cannot be yet performing in the pit. And we hope that this will happen in the fall again, that we can perform opera. There's also, like, you know, just so you get to know us, we have like a family, like this is my son.
A family.
Yeah.
We should get Anna.
Okay.
Second.
Say hi.
Hello.
He's 7 years old and he's already starting the piano as well. And then we have a 5-year-old daughter whose name is Annabelle.
Which I guess doesn't really want to come.
Yeah, she's coming.
Whatever.
Come.
Just like hi.
And this is Annabelle, our daughter. She's 5 years old. Yes, this is the family in captivity.
Nice to meet
So
you.
how was
Very nice.
Very, very nice to see you all. It's like Dora said, this is a very special event for us after having been silenced for a whole year. And you know, it's not the same. You can enjoy music. You can practice by yourself at home and listen to music and all that, and play for your walls. But it's not the same as playing for our audience, for our people, because we get the strength from them. And but this was really very special for us because it's our colleagues. Not only our colleagues, we're all very good friends. And we're used to making music together. And these pieces that you will listen to are very, very special. That they represent the opera they're probably at their best, and they're very well arranged. And I thought my colleagues played magnificently.
Yeah, the concert was actually live streamed on last Sunday. And so we heard the whole thing, but I can just tell you a little bit about the first pieces. It's starting with a piece of Lohengrin that is very slow, and you know, like Wagner always has this long melodies that is very festive, and it's actually fitting really well to this holiday season. After that, we have a shorter piece of a ragtime, just to lighten things up, and then there comes another slow piece by Ravel, French, the Pavane pour une enfant d'enfant. That's actually, it says, if you translate it for a princess that was deceased, but I heard that he actually just liked the name because it sounded so good in French, because it rhymes. So it doesn't have like the, you know, the sadness, even though it is a little bit on the sad side. And then we finish with a really great arrangement by for the Carmen opera, which is like a condensed version of all the famous themes. Yeah, a fantasy by Bizet. And after that, we have other pieces that are wind players. There's an oboe and a cello and piano for the Sonnambula by Bellini. And then we have another piece with clarinet and oboe as well. And the grand finale of that concert is going to be the Tannhäuser arrangement of the march. And that's for a big brass ensemble. So you will hear horns and trombones and even percussion. So they got together in a church to make it possible with the social distancing. But it's a great arrangement. So I hope you will enjoy it. And I actually wanted to, before you maybe start with the concert, do you have any questions to us or anything that you want to have us talk more about it?
Feel free to unmute yourselves if you have any questions.
Nobody?
How has the experience been performing socially distanced? How is that? Do you think it's impacted your sound, the sound of your performances at all?
Yeah, actually, we all got tested. We do that always before we have like a recording for this series. So we know that there's actually no kind of danger in that regard, and we all wear masks. When we do music, we cannot be like so far away that we cannot, you know, have the sound. So we had almost the normal distance. But since we are cellists, we have the bow that we have to move. So we in nature, we have always the right distance already of a few feet in between. So it was not so far away from each other that we cannot hear.
Yeah, also we rehearsals also took part in pretty large venues. We were never rehearsing in somebody's apartment and enclosed. We rehearsed mainly in a church that was large enough that you felt that there was plenty of fresh air around, and we tried our best to keep a distance, but also, you know, if you're going to play together, you can't be like 10 feet away from each other because you will not like the results.
Did anyone else have any?
But the brass players, yeah, the brass players did not have a mask, and I saw in their performance that they were really quite distant. But I think it worked well because they had the microphone set up close by. And they said it was actually it felt like second nature when they played again. You know, some were asked, you know, how it was to get together after 1 year that we have not been able to perform together. It's been since, you know, exactly April 1st. So you know, that we were furloughed, but now it's you know, it's like, it's really nice to do these concerts because it gives us a sense of identity that we can do something and we can also, you know, connect. And it's nice that now we also do have the time to do this chamber music project, that before we were so busy with the operas that maybe it wasn't, you know, feasible to do it.
Yeah, and also it keeps us in contact with you, with the audience, you know, that we haven't disappeared. We're just put on hold.
Do you think there'll be more opportunities, you know, later in 2021? Are you looking at in-person, you know, maybe outdoor performance opportunities?
We're hoping for that. Yeah, it's there's a lot of uncertainty. You know, this whole year has been a giant question mark, and as to when are we going to be able to perform, how. You know, opera, it being the opera house being a place where everyone is pretty packed together, and so are all the musicians in the pit. You know, you barely have much room to play under normal circumstances. So it's pretty difficult to think of how it could be possible to start doing operas in our usual format, unless we're talking about much smaller repertoire, like Baroque operas and things like that. Yeah.
But to do chamber music outdoors, it's definitely possible, especially
Yeah.
when it gets warmer. For instance, last year I have been actually getting, several weekends. I was together with a friend, cellist also, and we played cello duos in Central Park, and the audience really loved it. We found a place at the Belvedere Castle, and it was the right climate, and it was actually a little bit secluded, so everybody that came was really coming for the music that they heard. And some people were standing there or sitting for an hour just listening to live music, because I do feel there is still a huge difference of hearing the music live, because the air vibrates differently when you're there, and there's also the contact and the feedback. Even for us, when we have the audience right there, it's
Yeah.
different than having a camera. When you have a camera, you always just think you want to make it perfect. But when you have an audience, it's not really about being perfect. It's about the emotional connection. And that's what we hope, at least it's captured a little bit in these concerts, even though we didn't have you right there, but we can at least imagine that there's the audience. Yeah.
Any members have any questions?
Well, just to say that from this side, it feels very good that we are not forgotten, and you're thinking on making some performance under these circumstances.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're
So I
really-
hope you will enjoy this performance now. You're going to show the entire concert now, right?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead. This kind of concludes our program. I'm gonna go ahead and play the entire program. You can stay as long as you want, leave if you need to. It is about 2 hours, so, but if you're interested in staying for the whole thing, I'm gonna let it play all the way through. I want to say thank you again for providing us the opportunity to share this music. Obviously, during the pandemic, we're all living separately and living in
Yeah.
isolation, and there's things that bring us joy that we definitely took for granted before the pandemic, and one of those things is definitely music and the opportunity to listen to live music. And while we're not in person watching this performance, we're really grateful for you providing us this opportunity to watch a performance as if we were there.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. You guys have the opportunity to stay the whole time, but you do not have to. Hold on, let me just double check that I shared this correctly. You can stay the whole time, you don't have to, but the performance is here for you to enjoy. And thank you again to the Met Orchestra musicians.